Boom. Boom, and we're live. Welcome back. Another episode of the Power Talks podcast. We are joined today by Denis Vasilev, an absolute legend in the kettlebell sport world. Dennis, 11 times world champion. Some of the things that you've done is just incredible when you think about the physical capacities that it takes to do it. So we're blessed to have you on. We're very thankful that you're here. And yeah, man, just thank you for joining us on this episode.
Thank you so much for having me, inviting me. It's well, I'm so glad we've met in person a couple of weeks ago. It was great times. Thank you again for this signing up for this last man standing challenge. That was very cool. Uh, you guys are great, and I'm very happy to connect again.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. So there's another thing that Brett forgot to mention. You're also the world record holder in the long cycle. The
That's my
world
thing.
record in the
Yeah,
long cycle. How many reps was that? 100, 101?
101.
Wow. Wow.
101. Yeah, that was life dream to hit this three digits. Well, I mean, all athletes obsessed with numbers. We're all looking for pretty like some combination. And it's was ultimate goal to hit 100 reps. And 2015 in Vancouver, Canada, I hit this reps 101, and then actually 1 week after I repeated this result and get a 100 exactly like in front of my coach also. So it was a double shot. So that was a peak.
Has
So there's
anyone
no
else
question.
has anyone else broke triple digits?
I'm the third athlete in kettlebell sport history who hit 100 reps, and it was 2015. And then after me, there are also three guys who did it. But well, not mean to put myself, any like, in the special place, but just saying that I'm the lightest guy. I'm the skinniest because
Nice.
the first athlete who hit 100 reps was Vasily Ginko, and he's a leader of IUKL, International Kettlebell Lifting Union, one of the most recognizable kettlebell sport organizations in the world, headquarters in Europe. So in the early 2000s, he did 100 reps, and he's about like 120 kilogram athlete, like heavyweight, like
That's a
about
big
two,
boy.
250, 260 pounds. And
Yeah.
then he did 105. And then Ivan Denisov, he's absolute legend in our small, kettlebell sport community in all three exercises, like crazy results. And he did 116, which is
Wow.
he set it up, and when he hit it, he was 108 kilograms, which is about 220 to 25 pounds. Um,
And you're competing at what
uh,
weight class?
I'm a middleweight, 185 pounds, 84 kilograms.
And everyone
Um,
the same weight.
huh?
Everyone uses the same weight.
Yeah, 32 kilogram kettlebells.
Yeah, could you
Okay.
for someone who maybe know how the sport works, could you explain like what you're doing in those 10 minutes? Like let's explain the time, the exercise and the weight.
Yeah, it's on its kind of pure origins, it's pretty raw. It's like right now, actually, I think it's great. But and we have like so many kettlebells now, it's not even a question, right? We have like starting from 2 kilograms and go up to 100 kilograms with like tiny 2 kilogram increments. So you really have like you can build such a smooth like progression, on weight. But at the beginnings, it was just red ones. It's like it's not even Soviet, it's prior Soviet, like Russian Empire weight system, like food. You can say it's a pound, but it was 1 pound was 16 kilograms. And so 32 kilograms, that's two puts, 2 pounds. And that was all you got. So, the red ones. So you're lifting this double 32 kilogram kettlebell, 70 pounds each. And the first sport exercises were jerk, snatch and press, actually. because in Soviets, well, it was like late 40s, early 50s when this kettlebell sport starts to form. It was under the Olympic Weightlifting Federation, um, and back then Olympic weightlifting had three exercises: jerk, snatch, and press. And so kettlebell sport also had jerk, snatch, and press. And at the beginnings, it was no time limit. So you start exercise, jerk, you're not allowed to put them down on the floor, and you can go for as long as you can hold them.
Okay.
And it was all the way till 1989, I believe. So I didn't catch these times, but my coaches did, and it was a very boring event because basically everyone was falling asleep and competitions were very long. But it was such an ultimate challenge, and some athletes were able to perform this jerk with kettlebells in the rack, never put them on the floor for like Mikhail Babushkin. He's actually like my I'll say we're from the same town. He did like 3 hours, I think. He was performing jerk in something like 200 reps in a row, to something, and then in late 80s, so they limited by 10 minutes. So it's actually 10
Yeah.
minutes was funny enough. Many lifters was very upset back then, and they thought it's like not fair because they used like very slow pace and doing like couple reps a minute and mostly like hanging out in the rack, and like good amount of athletes quit when the 10-minute limit was established. But it's carrying on till today. So it's a 10-minute performance. So there are weight categories, so athletes in the same weight class doing the same exercise, and timers start simultaneously. And usually athletes kind of align, like in the one line. It's depends on the size of a competition. So it's like somewhere between 3 and 10 platforms. And usually spectators can see the time and they can see the reps, and the winner is athlete who can do more reps by the end of the 10 minutes.
And so do you only compete in the long cycle or do you do the jerk and the snatch as well?
Well, my most trophies and victories I earned in long cycle. That's my favorite event, and I was in the national team for long cycle through like from 2008 till 2016, and well, served in the national team, and that's where I won the well, majority of my events. Was like first 7 world championships in long cycle. But then when by 2016 I was 32, like, and well, there is no money, in the sport itself. Like I kind of got lucky, and it was just one. It was like a good cash prize, something like 10,000 euros or something, like just our ultimate prize for just so one lifter, and I was selected. That's when I did my 90 reps back then and set up the world record back then, like 2013. So I get this cash once, but it's never happened before, and it never happens after. And so by 2016, I figured, well, how many more, world championships, will I be scoring, and like what's the point, of taking a place in the national team. There's new guys needs to try it out, and that was the moment when I also was start working closely with the John Wild Buckley from the Orange Kettlebell Club, and after that's why I decided to move to States, and I saw that while I wants to spend or give, rest energy that I have to spread the word about kettlebell sport, and rather attend maybe smaller events, but in countries where sport just started, and just, well, hopefully give a good, impression for guys who, and maybe inspire, others to live, because it was my story, when I saw first professionals being beginner, like my jaw, drop on the floor, and like, wow, how gracefully this guy's lifting this heavy bell. So from 2016 I was attending the competitions of different organizations, IKFFA and and IKO and IKMF, and I actually start catching up on biathlon. And also did competitions on jerk and snatch. Sorry for a long answer for a short question. Yeah, I can say that get pretty confident in all three exercises. And even lately, it's kind of like long forgotten exercise rather than new, this double half snatch. It was on the very beginnings of a sport, like in this like late 40s, and then it's never made it to official sports, but last like 5-6 years, like about pandemic times, it's kind of back to stage. So that's a force exercise, and I've just set up the world record for double half snatch, and well, fair to say that it's a world record because no one ever done 10-minute set of this exercise with double 32s before. So I'm the first one who hit 10 minutes, and it's 64 reps. So it's, kind of, I think it's a good starter bar. And I hope that, like, I definitely can see that this result can be improved. But it's, I set up the bar.
Physically, the sport is insane. So demanding. Like, people who work out with kettlebells generally would look at the 70-pound bell as like a respectable weight, like that's pretty heavy. And then you're over here doing 100 reps without setting them down in 10 minutes, clean and press or clean and jerk. It's incredible. Or half snatch, like all of the different variations in the sport. That's so physically grueling. And yeah, could you talk about that, like the physical capacities it takes, and also the mentality to go behind and tackle that task?
Yeah, and actually, just a small remark, like regarding the reps. Well, double half snatch is pretty new, and I suspect that it might be as fast as a long cycle. But so far, at least my results is the slowest exercise. So I did like 64 reps, and I probably can get to 80 reps in 10 minutes. Double half snatch, double 32s. But in long cycle, it's one-on-one reps. And then in jerk, that's 145, my best. So it's but it's a shorter amplitude, right? So you don't reclean them. So it's like you just go from the rack to the top.
Right.
And then the fastest exercise is snatch. So with snatch, my best is 213. But it's also one arm at the
Guys,
time.
Really quick for anyone watching. 213 was on jerk.
No, 145 on jerk.
What was 213?
The snatch.
The snatch. Double snatch or one?
No, one arm snatch.
Either way, single 70 pounds in your hand, 200 reps of a snatch without putting the belt down in 10 minutes. That is ridiculous. Or 145 reps jerk, 2 double 32s, 70 pounds in each hand, 140 pounds going up and down nonstop. That is brutal.
And it's very like organized performance. It's not a random number. I mean, when I performed these reps, I knew exactly what I'm going for. It's like we don't really count reps total. It's like, speaking of like a psychological part, because it's kind of depressing when you pick up the bells and it's one and you need to do 100. You think, holy cow, just with too many reps to go. So we're counting like each minute from zero, right? Yeah. It's it's individual sport, but it's kind of team sport. Like, I like to have ideally my coach by my side, or like at least a teammate who can like guide me through the set, like maybe give some notes, or like tell me what's going on, like who's on the second place, who's on the third place. And like counting wise, like I like to have each minute from zero for first 9 minutes, but then for last minute finish line, I like to have a total count, because like last minute it's cool, because let's say when I hit this one-on-one, so like I'm going 10 repetitions per minute for 9 minutes, and then 9 minutes done, I have 90 reps, And that's the reps I want to hear. Like I'm getting excited. I have a minute to go and it's 90 on the timer. And that's a total count 91, 92, 93. And I'm getting closer, closer, closer. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. But yeah, I don't want to hear the total count at the beginning of the set. That's for sure.
So one thing real quick, because that's not easy on the body. So how are you preparing for your back? Because that's the main thing that it just doesn't go in my head is how is your back withstanding 100 reps?
Um, well, one thing is that, well, if we're talking about just amount of pressure that goes through your frame and amount of weight that your vertebrae is taking, it's fairly small compared to, let's say, Olympic weightlifting, right? When we're talking like weight over the head at once, right? Because guys now lifting like what 250, something like that, right? In like champions in Olympic weightlifting, 200 to 50 kilograms, which is what is like almost 600 pounds, right? And in kettlebell sport, heaviest you can go is double 32s, which is 70 pounds, 140 pounds. But then you multiply it, right? And let's say if I did 100 reps with double 32s, like 64 kilograms by 100, like it's 6.5 tons total of weight lifted in 10 minutes. But I think the trick is in cyclic nature of the movement, because I'm not just holding the weight, over the head, and in either phase, it's just constant switch. I kind of classify the kettlebell sport movement to like three phases: static, semi-static, and dynamic phases, and they are all mixed together. So like static phase will be this rack fixation, right? And then from the rack fixation, you jerk it, dynamic phase, and then actually kind of it's you catching it over the head. It's like under squat. I call it semi-static because in kettlebell sport you don't really want to hang out there for too long because it just will be too exhausting for your quads. But you need to know exactly how deep is your under squat, and you need to master it, and you need to practice the stop there like through your like training drills, and then you get to the toe fixation for a brief moment, like just usually it's 1 second over the head, and actually as better your technique, as easier the lifting. Because let's say if you're a bit sloppy, if you'll not manage to straighten your arms on time, or it's unsynchronized, well, then you kind of will be battling with this weight over the head, trying to like stabilize them. And of course, it's all exhausting on your muscles and potentially dangerous for like tissue connections and joints and the back if you're struggling with weight. But once you master it, once you're like very precise and exact, you're hitting the spot, bam. So, you're loading the frame and muscles really just kind of backing up, they just kind of holding the joints, make sure that they not unlock accidentally. So the weight ideally goes through your frame, not on the muscles. When you're straightening your arms and we're straightening your legs and you're straightening your back, it's kind of goes through your bones to the floor. And that's the difference of good technique and poor technique. So I always say that there's no such thing as a bad exercise. That can be only a poor technique and poor methodology. So you can mess up. Huh?
So something like the feet, have you ever focused on what's going on with your feet? Because I feel like that's a big part of what you're going to be doing, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of reps.
Feet, you mean like feet or
Yeah, like the
ankles?
connection to the floor and the ground. Because I noticed you wear the tier lifting shoes, the ones that have the wide platform.
Mhm.
So the feet is obvious. It's something that you've thought about, but like this is something that you think about in training.
Well, exercises with double bells, jerk, long cycle, double half snatch, symmetrical exercises, And then this transition from the bump to the second dip when you do the under squat is like pretty sharp, drop. Um, um, Having the weightlifting shoes on your feet, and it's kind of like a flat and hard soil, just give you a very excellent sense of like reaching the bottom. It's almost like a clap sometimes happening. Whereas like if you're lifting like some like running shoes or even like barefoot shoes, it's a little too soft of a landing, and you like it's kind of a bit distracting when you kind of have a bit of a roll, left and right and like forward. You kind of wants to have like be like iron, on the flat surface. You kind of wants to stick to the floor. It's usually like a rubber platform. That's the difference. Like in Olympic weightlifting, it's rubbers only under the plates, and athletes, well, depends probably, but it kind of like polished wood, which actually kind of like slippery. Like I'm wondering even like, well, they do only one rep and that's a lot of weight. So it's probably they're not moving anywhere. But in kettlebell sport, it might be like, distracting factor if the surface is a bit slippery. So we want to have like a rubber platform and rubber soils on the shoes. So you kind of glue to them so you don't move anywhere. Well, your heels going up, but your toes also always remain on the same spot. Um, and well, there's a lot of tiptoe work, but also the trick it's you see it's kind of image might trick you, like what's like back situation, it's like when you look from the side, well, you look like this question mark posture, and you think like, what's this guy doing, like he's killing his back. And once in a while, like actually, it's almost never was like trolling comments, like was someone what really like trashing or aggressive. Mostly like they kind of feel sorry or like, oh man, you need to like you looks like pretty athletic and strong, but like you need to watch your back. And well, doing it for 25 years, nonstop, and like never felt better. And
Yeah.
and I'm I'm not mad on these comments. Actually, in the reverse, I always trying to like take my time and explain a little bit, because the whole trick is the shortcut. See this well, the rack fixation, that it's arched back, but the elbow is stuck on the pelvis. Um, that's why even like going through the trouble, I get this like a skeleton model, and well, it's pretty good quality skeleton. Like usually something that can be used on like anatomy classes where like every bone kind of mimic, but the back is not flexible. The spine, and it's just a metal cord. So I removed it and I put some like internet cable to it so it's get flexible. So I put the skeleton into the rack to like really kind of show guys like how it looks on bones. So um, uh, the legs is just a giant bones, like the hip and the lower leg, and then the pelvis is like the huge like bone vase, right? And then when you're on this pelvis, you place your elbow, and then it's also, well, it's like the two bones of the forearms, but they're standing on this pelvis, and that's where the kettlebell sit. So it's basically, yeah, you avoid loading all the back and just put the weight directly on your pelvis. And that's the trick why the back feels okay. And it's okay as long as your elbow on the stomach or on the pelvis. Of course, if you will arch your back, you will loosen up and you will not stick your elbows, well, then the whole weight, goes on the, upper body. And that's how you can pull or strain something in your back. So of course
Yeah.
that's if you're more flexible enough, because not every you know um, well, athlete can place elbows close enough and reach the iliac crest, like, but that's the goal. And once you can get it right, well, then it's yeah, I don't feel any discomfort in my back at all. And so with the feet, and the same story, it's there's nothing to do with the shanks, like the tiptoe thing. It's just a quads. You fires up and you flex your quad so hard that it throws your body up, and actually your ankles relaxed, and that's why kind of like toe, it just kind of stay on the ground, but the whole body goes up, and that's why it's a tiptoe. But it's not a shanks flexion, it's a quads flexion. So that's why it's like, yeah, shanks ideally should be totally like um, relaxed, and well, I mean, they shouldn't be the most tired and exhausted muscle, that's for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you're talking about legs, you should feel your quads, glutes. Like I have this it was the experimental project in like Silicon Valley, and guys sponsored me with this like a sensor suit. It's a t-shirt and pants, and they have like sensors, well, through the main muscles like pectorals and deltoids, like front and back, and was no abs by some reason, but was back muscles, laterals and lower back, and then was glutes and hamstrings and quads. And I was wearing it for kettlebell sports, so glutes always fires up as the well, and it's collecting data of like muscle activation and percentage. So you actually can spot like asymmetry left and right. Well, and you can see the how hard each muscle work, and like glutes the hardest working muscle in kettlebell sport. Number one, so the glutes, they did working in the bump phase and accelerating pull, this extension. So yeah,
That's
quads,
fascinating.
glutes, hamstrings.
What did they do with that information?
Um,
Because that's very interesting
well,
that you did that study.
it called Athos, ATOS, and
ATO.
ATHOS. But I believe, unfortunately, I think guys run out of business because they gave me this suit. It was like 2017,
Mm.
and they were trying to actually connect with the professional teams and sports. I think they was trying to work with like football players and track and field athletes. But looks like, well, speaking of what to do with that information, seems like they're not quite
Yeah,
maybe
yeah, yeah.
figure out, or
Yeah.
maybe message wasn't delivered enough. But for me, what I was able to extract from it is to spot asymmetry in my lifting, that my right side was working more than my left. So it just kind of notes, that okay, I just needs to pay attention a bit more to one side than another. And it's a detailed, like in exact percentages,
Hmm.
for like each muscle group on the each muscle group, and plus like left and right side. So you can get like a percentage of involvement of your quads, but then you also within this percentage, like let's say it's a 15% of quad, but it will give you like 9% of like left side and like 6% of the right side, and you ideally kind of wants to be like in the middle. So that was interesting to absorb, over the several workouts, wearing it consistently. Well, and then yeah, just find out which muscles are really, because you kind of suspect that which muscles you need to rely on, but it was like actual data to confirm that yes, glutes working out the hardest, and then quads, like second place, and like delts, like actually arms were working also surprisingly a lot. Yeah.
What one quick question is, I remember you talking about doing martial arts when we had our conversation in Denver. How how did how did your fighting experience? One thing, what did you do? Like, what type of martial arts did you do?
In Russian, it's called rukopashny boy.
Okay,
In English, I believe it's a hand-to-hand combat.
okay. And so how do you think going from hand-to-hand combat to kettlebell sport helped you, and maybe didn't help you?
Oh yeah, it's helped a lot. Well, it's form like a um, athlete or competitor character. It's
Yeah.
the adrenaline rush, in martial arts. Before a fight, at least before a first fight of a competition. That's the one to survive. Once you did the first one, then you kind of like not afraid anymore. But
Yeah.
it was ultimate challenge. I'm very grateful for this experience, and um, they actually um, somewhat well, I wouldn't say related, but I mean the type of a challenge, like physical challenge, it's not too far away. The abilities wise, like in martial arts, you want to be strong, but you don't want to bulky, and you want to be fast, but you don't want to be skinny, and you want to be like flexible, but not like ballerina flexible. Kind of like
Swimming.
um, capable. All the way around, and that's what kettlebell sport is about as well. So like I'm still using, well, I mean, it's interesting. I had this conversation with like my partner John Wild once, and like about the pull-ups and hanging exercises, and actually like Joe Rogan also mentioned like once how good it is for shoulders, and thought, like I never really even was thinking about it because I always doing it. Like I even like I believe my very first diploma is for pull-up competitions like in the second grade, I know because in martial arts that's what you do, there's no machines, so like you do push-ups, you do pull-ups, you like maybe take your friend on your shoulders and you like walk with your friend, like so it's all like
Hmm.
calisthenic exercises, abdominals, um, and I'm still doing them. And then the whole mobility routine, actually from martial arts, especially martial arts that have strikes, like a kickboxing or like a sambo or this hand-to-hand combat, like idea that you want to be loose in your shoulders. So the hardest punch, like you cannot be stiff in your shoulder. The energy goes kind of from the legs, right? It's like sort of like a whip. And that's why the martial artists, they do lots of mobility routine for shoulders. They want to be kind of like a loose here. The exactly same story for kettlebell sport. Like you don't want to be stiff around your shoulders because you will not get the rack fixation right. You will not get toe fixation right. So you kind of shoulders always kind of go up and down. Like you reclean, pull shoulders went down, and then you pull, they go up. You kind of keep shaking them all the time. It's funny, it's something like a pigeon, like have this, always moving neck.
Yeah.
So that's I always kind of moving my
So,
shoulders.
so Dennis, you competed 50, did you say you had like 50 fights?
Um, well, I did martial arts from age of 6 till like my last fight was like first year of college, 2001. So I was like 17 years old. So I wasn't that good in the spreadsheets, like, on the age 6. So I don't have like a exact track,
Yeah.
but like from like diplomas I have, like I think it's around like 40-ish, like,
So how
fights.
would
Yeah.
you say that the mentality aspect of being an athlete? So like, you're competing in kettlebell sport, you competed in martial arts. Are the mentalities similar in the training? Because I
Uh,
imagine in the competition itself, you're kind of in that flow state, like most athletes, like you're not necessarily processing in the competition itself. But where do you take your mentality when you're training? Is it a dark place? Is it a happy place? I know there's a blend of it all as an
mhm.
athlete, but where do you go?
uh, um, Well, kettlebell sport, that's a fight with yourself, and that's probably, one of the hardest fights you can have because there's no winner or loser there really, right? It's when it's a martial arts, it's like it's a person in front of you. You kind of like have someone to blame, Okay, he just knocked me out, it's not my fault, he was like I like wasn't too fast enough, or opposite. And in kettlebell sport, it's just it's the same bells, they weight all the same, but I've done actually, like speaking of like my kettlebell sport career, like I track all of my workouts from the beginning, from very beginning, from like 2001, and like I've done in long cycle, I've done like 75 competitions, 10-minute sets with 32s. Like I mean, that's a lot of 10-minute sets, but they're not getting any easier. Like mentally, when you're standing on the platter and about to pick them up, bells don't care, how many times you lift it, they still weigh the same.
Yeah.
And um, for me, that's a spreadsheet. That's what I believe in. All these like fears and doubts. I believe in consistency, and I believe in math. So the training cycle is very organized. So you take a certain amount of time that I convinced, and it's okay. I think above all, what stand is you cannot have doubts. That's um, that's why athletes are so superstitious, and
Yeah.
religious, because you need to believe in something. You cannot have doubts. If you have even tiny bit of a doubt, that's it. It will eat you through your whole set. So the whole challenge is to convince yourself that you can do it. That yes, that's happening. And how you will do it? Well, that's as big as challenge as to figure out the training methodology or figure out the technique or improve some physical ability. So you're finding for this key to your brain, like what you believe in. Someone like hiding the wedding ring in the sock, like you're doing for your kids, you're doing for your wife, you're doing, I know, for a God, but something that you have no doubts in. And for me, it was my coach. Like my coach was, well, again, in the kettlebell sport world, legendary athlete, famous for like giving his best. Like he's so often, like through my victories, it was maybe just a few times when it was kind of like a tough fight, when it was just a 1 or 2 reps, with the opponent, and then I win, by few reps. Most of the time, I was winning by a lot, like by like 10, reps, 5 reps. And my coach, most of them, he win by 1 rep in the last second, and after last rep he fall unconscious like on the floor. Like there's some videos, like vintage videos of him, like Sergey Rachinsky, like very charismatic guy and like achiever. I don't know, just such a confidence and like champion spirit was radiating from him. It just was amazing. Like I don't know, I just was ready to do whatever he will tell me. So
Would you say,
and
Dennis? Would you say, Dennis, that the confidence and and kind of getting rid of that doubt comes from having a solid training plan and following it?
yes, yes. So one thing, yes, training plan, make sure that you're following legitimate scientific proof training methodology, and then that you're following it. Because when you're looking on the training cycle, it's a 12 weeks, 3 workouts a week. You don't want to miss any single one of them because you're robbing yourself. Even just one workout. We're not talking about like you skipping every like sword of force one, right? You just like, well, now when I'm coach, like and like have students, you can pay me like any amount of money, but I cannot spin the time back. If you skip half of the training cycle, you just will not hit your best. It's like it's not in my power. You just miss all these opportunities. I can help you to not like completely, get into the trouble and figure out like some plan B, but you need to be consistent in your work. And then there's a milestones, checkpoints on your way. Like in kettlebell sport, let's say you do 10 minutes on competition, but then 2 weeks prior to that, you do 7-minute test. And 2 weeks prior to that, you have 5-minute test. And so you did your work, it's time for 5 minutes. So go for 5 minutes. If it went, usually it's very informative. You did this 5 minutes, and it's many ways how it can be done. It can be barely done, can be easily done, it can be like 50-50. So you kind of like making notes, like what was the challenge. Sometimes challenge might be a bit of like a technique, like imperfections. Sometimes might be like a bit of lack of endurance. You like you're breathing a bit harder than you wanted to. Maybe you feel your legs a little like too weak, on the bump. And well, because it's a test in advance, so you have time to work on these issues, and you work on it a bit more, you get your 7-minute test. It's like closer, 70%, and then see
So,
how that will go.
so
And I was
Dennis,
saying like,
sorry about that, but one of the things that I'm interested in with the 5-minute test, 7-minute test is the stuff that leads to that. So I've seen you work a lot with the 16s going for 30 minutes. I've seen you doing some stuff where you're doing heavier weights but for less. So like I imagine you're touching the 44 sometimes. I imagine you're touching the 40. Because like if you're gonna do the 32s have to feel light.
so within this 12 weeks, um, last about last 7 weeks on competition weight. And at some point, like final weeks, you can go in a little bit heavier. Like I always like to go at least like 1 or 2 kilograms heavier, like around 7-minute test for just confidence. Ideally trying to keep like my competition pace, but with slightly heavier bells. And then, well, first 5 weeks on the lighter weights. And I start really light, like I start 16s. And for light bells helps you to refine your technique, because well, you're less scared of experiment a little bit and try something new, adjust the amplitude. Will not be punished as severe as playing around with competition weights. And it also helps you to upgrade your lifting pace, because when you drop the weight you can go much faster. And I like this because like you'll start very light and fast, and then you kind of trading weight on pace. Like you get a little bit heavier and a little bit slower and a little bit heavier and a little bit slower. And by the time you get to your competition weight, you want to land to your desired pace. Like for example, like when I hit this 100 reps, so it was the slowest pace of a training cycle. You see, that was the three. Even it's pretty fast pace in general for these weights, but like with 16s, I'm going like 15 reps a minute, and with 20s, I go like maybe like 14 reps a minute, it was 24s, like about like 14,
So when
13,
you're periodizing your training, you're periodizing from you're going fast and light to heavy and slow
Yep,
competition.
yep, yep.
Interesting.
That sounds a lot like the dynamic training that in America they call the conjugate system. And I want to know like you obviously you weren't just doing the kettlebell events. I remember you talking to me about holding the kettlebell behind and doing the kettlebell jumps or doing the squat jumps. What other things were you doing for speed besides lighter weights?
Well, there is we call it a specialization work, where it's actual, like, let's say if I'm getting ready for long cycle competition, so I'm doing long cycle, and in between this 5 minute sets, 7 minute sets, I do like different kind of sets. And for speed, that will be like 1 minute intervals, classic interval workout, 1 minute work, 1 minute rest, 10 rounds. And it's also like within one weight, uh, as shorter the sets, as faster the pace. So let's say with this 32 kilo kettlebells, if I do 1 minute sets, I can go up to like 140% of competition pace. So I can handle 10 ones with pace 14 reps a minute. And then like 5 minute set ideally should be performed 120% of competition pace. And 7 minute set should be performed like 110% of competition pace. So when I go for 5 minutes, I'm trying to hit 60 reps if I want to hit 110. Because if I in 5 minutes, if I'll handle 50, you minus 20%, and that will be a 10-minute result. Like if you did pace 10 for 5 minutes and it was your best shot, there is no way you can handle 10 for 10 minutes. No, you drop at least 2 reps down from your pace. And so like for 7 minute set, it's like 11 reps a minute. And then for 10 minute set, it will be 10 reps a minute.
So Dennis, with your methodologies of training, is largely what you're implementing into yours and your athletes programs, is it kind of like passed down from your coaches, or are you diving into the research yourself? Like, are you studying various methodologies from people like, I don't know, Verkhoshansky or Bondarchuk, or these individuals who are known for training methodologies?
Uh, well, of course, I think any sport, it's the evolution of methodologies, going, and of course, you know, new generation coaches feeds from the past generation coaches. And in my story, well, through my career, I worked with, well, besides my martial arts coaches, and I've learned at least something from each coach I work with, and I will start naming, like, well, I can, like, I think I should, it will take too much time, but I respect this man so much. And it's more than 10 for sure. And, it was like all different kind of knowledge. But then being a bit more specific, like in kettlebell sport, then Timofey, he made me a master of sport, and Sergey Rachinsky, he made me a master of sport international class and the world champion. But then I also asked his permission and went for 1 year to work with a coach Rudnev, because I really was interested in his like scientific approach and like different weight increments. And then Sergey Merkulin, he is also was one of my inspirations. I believe he's one of the like most iconic like technique representations of a kettlebell sport. Like his lifting is so beautiful. So like this four-man in kettlebell sport. But then also I graduated from Lesgov University of Physical Culture and Sport in St. Petersburg, and that's a unique institution. It was kind of like a beginnings of athleticism. Krajewski was his name. He is like started the weightlifting club in St. Petersburg, like late 800s. That's where like Alexander Zas was like this, like
Could
a
you repeat his name
isometric.
quick? Could you repeat his name? Could you repeat his name, your professor?
Um, well, it's Krajewski. He's the well in Russia he called a founder of the weightlifting. He was like on late 800s, early 1900s. Krajewski. And then Lesgov, he was a medicine professor who first studying the sports, like anatomy of it, the physiology of it, like of sports, and it was also like very beginnings of 19th century, like 1910. And this university still like exists, like over 100 years heritage. And I was in faculty of athletics, and there was in athletics, it was bodybuilding, powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting, and kettlebell sport. So I was in kettlebell sport specialization, and I was studying there for 5 years. And well, there was like we're talking about lifting technique, we're talking about the methodology. They kind of like classify the way to like describe or teach certain way to move, like or training methods, like this training methods, interval method, repetitive method, competing method. It's applicable to like across pretty much all of the sports.
Yeah.
So I was using this existing science, and I was just like through their programs, I was applying it to kettlebell sport. And that's how I came up with like my book of kettlebell sport lifting technique methodology. So yeah, it's based on like general sports science, like even this periodization, like what I've learned like by human physiology. You need to reset every 12 weeks. Kind of like a general principles. And principles of a gradual load increase. So yeah, it all was taken from the books. Yeah, and just
Like
applied for.
For us in swimming, we would take a 16 week period where it was 12 weeks of training and then 4 weeks of taper.
Okay.
So is that
Mhm.
is that like how long were you guys tapering for? Were you guys doing a
Uh,
2 week or 1 week?
yeah,
How was that?
it's a bit like a miniature of that, because like I'm tapering last 2 weeks within this 12 weeks. So
Okay.
basically, like first 10 weeks is a rise, and then like last 2 weeks it's a bit of a decrease.
Okay. So for us, it depended on the events. For us, the sprinters, I was a sprinter. I did the 50 and the 100. So it was 16 weeks and then four of those, so 12-week cycle and then 4 weeks of taper. And like, do you think that is the best method for you, or was that just the whole thing for the general population in the sport? They were doing that 12-week cycle.
Well, I would say that probably 4 weeks of taper probably a little bit too much. I would say it's a little bit probably too long. I wouldn't want to like recover that long. I feel like I probably will start losing my my shape. If I will let kind of 4 weeks to decrease, or like 2 weeks feels well. I mean, it can be three. It's when it comes. So classic, pre-competition test is a 7-minute set, and it's 2 weeks prior the competition. But if you wants to do 8-minute test, it's basically will cost you another week of recovery. So if you do 8-minute test, then you want to take 3 weeks till competition. And if it's a month, within a month, I can do like 2 competitions basically. So if I will get my 10 minutes 32s now, then I will want to take at least a month before I will hit another one, and that's pretty much will be like tapering, because I will be trying to kind of maintaining, my level, not really like trying to improve anything, but kind of just recover after competitions and just stay with the same weight and keep the same pace and kind of get recharged and hit it again.
Dennis, have you or any athletes had an issue with those final 3 minutes? Because
Uh, uh,
if you're stopping training camp at 7 minutes, I can imagine 3 minutes. You could accumulate. I don't know. Let's just call it 30 repetitions in that time. Um, that's a lot. It's a lot of volume.
well, so one thing is that you definitely want to have a sense of a full distance, what 10 minutes feels like. And on my way within this 12 weeks, I do 10-minute sets, but with the lighter weights, at least two
Oh.
10-minute sets, like with 24s and with 28s. And it's it's very uncommon to do a 10-minute set with a competition weight. It's just because it takes lots of really energy, physical and mental. And as I
Yeah.
said, like it will take you at least a months to recover, after that before you will be able to get for the next shot. And actually, that's kind of like it's issue. Even like the athlete who inspired me for kettlebell sport, Eduard Akramenko, outstanding athlete. Uh, so um, he's kind of was a bit on the stubborn side, and also his coach. He was our Olympic weightlifter. And it's actually kind of true for the first generation kettlebell sport coaches in Soviet that they were Olympic weightlifters who like transitioned to kettlebell sport. And so he somewhat was like, you know, uh, we can say like pioneering, his coaching skills with Edward. And so, I mean, Edward had some flexibility in his preparation, and even he was a champ and very strong, like he was nervous a lot, and couple times he did like 10-minute set like before a flight to competition, like couple days before, like just kind of see, am I ready or not? And he
Yeah.
crushed it completely, but then that's it, like 10, 15, 20% drop on competitions because he just gave his all,
Right. He gave his all.
like
Yeah, and
just
it makes
before, like
total it makes total sense to do the 10-minute set with the lighter
yeah.
load. Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yes, yeah. So by doing it with slightly, well, and you see it's like 24, it's like, well, pretty light compared to 20, 32s and then 28, just great. It's like, it's challenging, but it's not like killing you. So you definitely feel like, what's going on with your, endurance and strength. And then after that, when you did a 7 minute with 32s, well, you have a pretty good idea what will happen next 3 minutes, because like this, if your lifting is not efficient enough, well, then you will start to feel that fatigue comes in the wrong places, and that will be a good warning for you. And on the other hand, if we're always looking on this like pace repetitions per minute, it's kind of similar to like, let's say, a speed in running or in swimming. Like you don't want to spike at the beginning and then kind of go downhill. Like you kind of have a warm up minute and then you're on the cruising pace and then you accelerate at the end. And so it's like we have this rep. So let's say, if I'm going for, well, I did this 101 rep, so it's actually like I did all 10s and then 11 at the end. And yeah, last minute always informative. Like, when I'm like, I do lots of coaching now, like online coaching, working with the spreadsheets, and I get the most information from the spreadsheet. Even like it's the reason for me to look on the video if I see like something going on with the numbers in the spreadsheet. Like, 7 minute set, goal is
Yeah.
space 10, all 10s. All 10s I will look on it because why he didn't accelerate last minute. It means that he's pretty much give his like 100%. It's probably he barely made it. Like it's my first question, why he didn't squeeze this last rep at the end. And then if it's like all 10s and 9, uh-oh, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, he just get a little bit short, so watch out for 10 minutes, needs to adjust the pace, like what's going on with his technique. I will look on the video and I will know what I'm looking for in this video because I know that like what's happened with his pace. Or if it looks like 10, 10, 10, 12 for last minute. All right, yeah, he had a great time, he had some fun, because he made it to the last minute and he felt strong and he was able even to like push it and accelerate.
So if you see something like a 10, 10, 10, 8, or a 10, 10, 10, 9, and you see that pace drop off, what are some changes in the program that you're going to make at that point?
Well, I need to investigate to understand what was the cause for the space drop. Was it a technique issue or was it an energy issue? So,
Let's say it's
well,
energy. Let's say it's energy.
yeah, because it might be like just partly have a bad night of sleep, just really like, well, and actually I just had a call with a student of mine was kind of like similar situation where you see it's like being a professional athlete is you need to be like pretty selfish. You need to like really care about yourself because well, it all will reflect on your result. It's very honest test. So and like it's how frustrating that would be that you like did a great preparation. You did all of this like test that leads you to 7 minute set, and then I know you had some party night before 7 minute set, or even like I know watch movie for too long, like compromise
Right,
your sleep,
right, right.
and that's it. You just screw up the whole like months of your preparation by just not being disciplined enough this last night. So, and in this situation, you can say, well, okay, like it's not a great result, but he's really like capable athlete. He's really like talented. He's really have everything he needs to get a result. And okay, let's like, hey, pay attention. Like competition is coming. Like make sure that like I always saying that um, sleep is the best recovery. You cannot replace good sleep with any energy drink, any supplements, nothing. It's
No.
and one night of sleep only will make you dizzy. If you will just crush the last night before competitions, it's like you will be all like sleepy the whole day. So you need at least like 3 good nights before competition. Like if you cannot get all of them, at least when you're heading towards competition, like make sure that your last 3 nights are good. Well, and of course like meal schedule, like make sure that you nutrition yourself well enough. And when it comes to like some overseas competitions, like no food experiments, especially when you go some like exotic country, like don't eat what if you don't know what it is,
Yeah,
like don't eat
yeah.
raw food, like go like simple and boring, like eat this like sandwich with the cheese and meat, something like that. To
Question.
well, but it's yeah.
Because this is the thing that I would deal with when I competed in different time zones, is we would switch our
Yeah,
training schedule 3 weeks before to
yeah,
fit the time
yep,
schedule of our competition. Is that
yep.
something you guys implement
Oh
too?
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. That's what professionalism is about. It's paying attention to all small details.
Yeah.
Like, well, in my situation is that like I'm evening person. Somehow, like first it was just a schedule that I wasn't able to work out in the morning, and I guess like after like decades of work, it's just that's how it is. Like I'm doing my workout after class, and I'm teaching like pretty late class. My class like from 6 till 8 p.m. And I might start my warm up maybe like at the end of the class when guys mostly, but I mean I'm working out like till like 10 p.m. But competitions on the morning,
Mm.
and that's why I'm like on the work days I have my like evening workouts, but on Saturdays, that's competitions usually on Saturday in kettlebell sport, and it's usually like first half of the day, so that's when my sword workout all this is, and usually the big sets, the test sets, they usually end of the week. So if I do 5 minute set or 7 minute set, it's usually Saturday. So it's kind of like competition day of the week, and it's about competition hours. So I do the same thing. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question about taper, because this is something that we would do a lot, especially the week of. So if I'm swimming the 50, I would get on the blocks and we would do 100% effort, 15 meters. We would get on the starting block and we would do 15 meters during the taper week, where we're really getting that kick count, because for us we have to count the kicks and we have to count how many strokes. So we were doing a lot of stuff where we were doing half the distance, but just full effort, max effort. Is that something you guys do during the taper, or are you really toning down the weights and toning down the volume?
Well, when 7 minute set is done, that's pretty much what you've got. And this last 2 weeks, usually, like it's a good, like the volume of kettlebell lifting is dropping, and the volume of like auxiliary exercises also dropping, but it's a good time for like endurance work. Like that, so you still can keep a pretty good like full size volume of your cardio preparation of your runnings, because it makes you feel light, like when you improve your endurance more. So it's a lot of running, and then technique refinement. You basically kind of stop chasing maximum pace you can. You kind of like stick with the competition pace, but you really wants to do it like crisp. You wants to get the static phases right, the insertions, or like no adjustments. You really wants to kind of make sure that you're lifting as clean as it possibly can be. And like this week before last, I like to do like a big workout. It can be like maybe like 10 days before competition. I can do like 3 sets of 4 minutes, uh, which is like a little bit over the competition volume. Like sometimes, even it's like really important competitions, then I can do 8 minute sets 3 weeks before competitions. And then 2 weeks before competitions, I can do 3 5s, which is kill me now. Give me this 10 minutes, please. It's like when you do competition pace 3 5s, even you're taking like 10 minutes rest in between, it's such a like it's 150% volume
Yeah.
workout. But only the way for you to survive it is be like perfectly efficient and do a great job breathing and relaxing and just cruising on competition pace. And basically, if I can survive these 3 5s on competition pace, and especially if I can like maybe accelerate last minute, it just pump my confidence about 10 minute set so much. I feel like I have no fear for 10 minutes after like
Then
this
it's a,
work.
a dedicated kettlebell sport athlete. How many times are they competing a year?
Well, I'll be 42 this year. So, and I hit my 101 in 2015. I was 32, and I believe it's literal was like my peak, absolute peak of my condition. So like early 30s, and usually you're crushing through your 20s. 20s like late 20s. That's where you're wise and still like pretty strong. And so when I was on my peak, like in this like late 20s, so like I've counted. It's like 1 year. I think it was 2014. I did 7 competitions with 32 long cycle only, and then on top of that, I did like maybe 3 with biathlon 32s, and then it's also was like 24s and 28s. I mean, about like 20, 30, 20 competitions. But uh, it just was a lot, and I feel great. I feel like in such a good shape that uh, well, and of course, when bells light, it doesn't feel like it's maximum effort. And then even when I do 32 kilograms, like I can on purpose, when it's like a lower level event, can go slower than my best pace. So of course, like what I've learned, and I've heard that you can score not more than 3 times a year your absolute like best effort, not more than 3 times. And like especially when you're getting closer to your like late 20s, early 30s, you maybe wants to drop even to twice a year to like really score the highest points in the heaviest in most challenging division. But I always suggesting to my students, and that's what I try to follow myself. I try to have a 10-minute set at least once a month. It can be like different kettlebell sport exercises. It can be different weight, but in order to be a good competitor, you need to practice to compete.
Right.
Meaning you need to like be used to this routine. If you're showing up into competition venue once a year, you'll be like so just nervous and stressed, of like echo, from your voice, and like all this like official judges walking and these timers and the weighings, and it's something that you should just practice, and doesn't matter it's heavy bells or light bells, the routine is the same. So that's why it's a great experience always. Like it's a bad idea, and some athletes, they kind of train in their garage, and they kind of say like, okay, I will get ready for a mess on 32s, and then I'll show up and I will kick everyone's butt. But well, it's often not happening because they forgot this, stress component of a public performance. And you can be a great gym athlete. You really can be capable of outstanding results, but then you're just not yourself when you step on the platform. You just get all confused and lost. You don't know where to look on the stage. It's different room. You used to look like on the certain corner. You used to like have a timer on the certain like level and certain font, and then it's completely different. You just get like dizzy. It's like can be really distracting. So like you need to like practice to change the environment even within your gym. Use like a different angles, like turn one wall, another wall, like timer higher, lower. And you like I suggest to compete as often as you can, but of course you need to like I usually follow the training cycle. So let's say if I'm in my 12 weeks preparation to world championship, that will be like on November, and I started like on early September. So like late September, I can do competitions with 24s. It will be perfectly aligned with my programming because that's where I will
Mm.
be like in about a month. And then like mid-October, I can do competitions with 28s. That also will be like perfect. And then I can compete like like late October with 32s, but I can do my 7 minute set as a competition. And
Right.
it's that's the things that, and it's also psychologically it's great when you go to competitions but you're not competing, so you're not like distracted with all these thoughts, or who's this guy, how many reps he will do. Like you have a goal that you're just doing your 7 minute test. You just like you have a certain number of reps and you sign up for 10. But well, you just kind of wants to get the experience of being judged by a judge and like hold competition, procedure, but you're not really just not competing and you're just doing your set. So I often was doing things like that. I was signing up, but I was just doing my 7 minute set, and it's even like because I do 7 minute sets, some guys might win me on this particular event, but I don't mind, because it's not my fight yet. I'm getting ready for mine, and here I just need to get a certain numbers. And that's also was a very like a good experience because to win is easy. Anyone can win, but the sport is about losing. You always needs to be you need to know what to do when you lose, and like you kind of get ready for worse, hope for the best, this kind of thing.
So is there
Yeah.
something that you guys is like there's two things here because one thing that our coaches would make us do is after and before and after we would have to visualize our races and we would have to
All right.
visualize what we were going to do, how we were going to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and then we would have test sets usually every 3 weeks. Every 3 weeks we would put on our suits. We had special racing suits to race with, and we would put them on. And sometimes our coaches would say, "Take off your goggles. Race without your goggles. Your cap falls off, so you can't wear the cap when you race. Your suit, you forgot to tie it, so you're racing without tying the suit."
Mm-hmm.
Are those the little things like do you play tricks on your athletes when they're about to do a test set sometimes? Like you untie their shoe, for example, or you don't start the timer on time or
Well, I would say that it's a highest tier things. It's it's for ultimate athletes, the ones who's nail the general stuff, who kind of getting bored with routine, and then you like throw them some like challenges like that, like unexpected, things. Because well, if you do something like this to amateur athletes, you'll just freak out. You're just not ready to take it. So it's like I would say that it's like it's an ultimate preparation of a superior athlete. Well, I mean, of course you can um, probably do some introductions of such things to also to any level of athletes, but it's just the things that the guys who's on their beginnings, they have lots of like real troubles to work on. Their technique is not there yet, they're not strong enough. Yeah, I mean, they're not ready to like really have fun yet. They're missing some like fundamental things, and last thing you want to do them is like put them into even harder situation where like it's a wrong t-shirt, or like a wrong belt, or slippery handles. I kind of like trying to, how say, raise my students, to like amateur level, with like best uh, environment possible. And then once they, getting solid, well, then you can throw them some like advanced, interesting stuff. Yeah, like you forget your belt. Yeah, actually, the funny thing is that this my absolute record of my career, this 101 rep, I forgot my belt in Russia. Like, and it's important piece of equipment for kettlebell lifters. It's like your belt and your shoes. It's like, it's a custom. It's like it's important piece of equipment.
Yeah, it's like
And
not
I
having
just
your it's like not having like your cup or your mouthpiece as a fighter.
yeah. Something, or like custom ski, for like a ski racer.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I just borrow a belt from a student of mine, and quite a simple generic belt. Well, cut my elbows though, because it was kind of a little bit sharp on the edges. So because of this rack, it like wasn't quite my size. So it's kind of, well, I made it to the set later. I kind of like noticed. Yeah.
That's cool though. That's cool though, because I remember there was a lot of times where for us the cap, the thing we put over our head, it would break. It would
Well, I have it's even on record. Um, oh, probably shouldn't waste the time of a podcast, but I can send you a link if you're curious. It was a IKO World Championship, Cali Open. Was it 2020? Like, it's for sure it's there. Like, or 2022 or 2023. So it's a 10-minute set. So it's a timers, electronic timers going. And well, this gym here, you see the NorCal, like it's California, but it's gonna get pretty cold, in the winter. There's no central heating, and so it like Cali Open is like the last weekend of February. It was a cold year. It was like morning was high 40s, and like we started was like low 50s, and so it was like a lady she was like real cold, and she surrounded herself with a bunch of heaters. And so I'm doing my 10 minutes with 32s, and then the electricity went off like on minute number 5. Like it's the room get dark, timers get off. And like what you do in this situation, right? And for me, like my thinking is that I put 12 weeks preparation for these competitions. I know that that's my shot, and when bells down, game is over, and I don't want to like start it again. Like I halfway into the set, and I know that my goal is like was 90 reps, and I thought, well, like, well, and I keep count of, well, first of all, I see it on the timer, but I pace myself like 9, so it was like 45 reps. So timer went off, and I said, well, let's just count till 90. Okay, there's no timer, and actually, like, and guys around, they look, who's doing what, like, are they putting bells down or they continue lifting? And I just, I just continue to lift, and guys actually did a great job. The judges, they switched put the electricity back, and there was some backup timer, so they catch up with the time, and they catch up with the reps. Eventually, it maybe took them maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute. And I should need to double check. Does anyone drop the bells or not? Might be even not. But I mean, it's like, imagine if someone dropped the bells, but then set was recovered. Well, you just disqualify yourself. That's it. Like, yeah, it was a good reason. No one will really like blame you. It's like you have all reasons to freak out, but well, at the same time, we cannot put you back on the game. You out. You put them
yeah.
down. That's it. Come next time. So things like that. It's like important to not get emotional, stick with the plan. If you came here for 90, just get your 90. Yeah. Um, yeah. So in kettlebell sport, it's mostly like, yeah, this timer issues, because it's not much of it. Like we're not in the water, right? We're standing on the platform. So like, uh, yeah. Usually if there's a issue, it might be like issues here with the timer, with the clocks, that it's get some glitch, it's like timer get reset or something. So yeah, it's important to stay stable there.
So Dennis,
Well,
one thing.
sometimes guys next to you, they might like drop the bell so loud, they like lost control and the 32s like flying, they might bounce like close to your platform. So it's important also to not move the line, just continue lifting, keep standing.
So Dennis, I think most sports have common injuries. For example, in fighting, you'll see during training, a lot of guys will hurt their ribs or their break a toe and whatnot, break their toes and whatnot. What are the common injuries in kettlebell sport?
Well, in kettlebell sport, kind of the main, well, the, I'll say the common thing, what's happened is um, like muscle spasms might happen because um, well, or how to let's I'll try to describe. So you're doing this like a cyclic performance of a many reps with the weights, and uh, it might happen, sloppy rep, slight asymmetrical, maybe when your shoulder like maybe twists to like lower than another, and you might feel like kind of a tweak, or like, it might happen like under the shoulder blade on the mid back, you can feel like you pull it a little bit, you load it in the wrong moment. So like, again, like, when it's some technique issues, but it's not like you're not professional athlete. It's a hard mission. You do 100 reps
Yeah.
and you need to perform 100 reps perfectly. And the thing is that within this 100 reps, it's many things you need to pay attention to: how to place your hands, how to extend your legs, how to land your elbows, when to breathe in, when to breathe. It's like might be 10 things you need to think about every single rep, multiplied by 100. It's like lots of thinking, and you simply, like I call it mental fatigue. Like often what happens is like with quite advanced athletes that their technique falling apart towards the end, not because they don't know how to lift, but just under the exhaustion and fatigue, they getting a bit, well, sloppy, maybe it's a hard word, but kind of like less precise, and they start missing a little bit the elbow lockout and making some mistakes. And that's where, you might like, if you catch the bell asymmetrically, so you might like load your shoulder a bit more. So usually things like that, it's like nothing major, like no like fractures or like either muscles or bones or like tears, nothing like that. Like I never saw anyone being hospitalized, from kettlebell sport competitions, but it's usually something that you even might made it to the end of the set, and then you feel like, okay, I need a massage therapist. I just feel like, it's something going on, with the back, needs maybe some anti-inflammatory like creams, some massage, maybe acupuncture. It might be that um, like if you um, that's something that, speaking of, like, your body always sending you warnings. You feel that it's coming, like when it's like a tiny tweak. So you need to track this area. You need to be careful about it and keep the posture certain way. And if you will be ignoring it, well, then it's might turn to a harder spasm when, like, muscles might squeeze, or like maybe you like, well, I don't know if it is exactly the explanation, but it might be like maybe like a nerve pinch or something, where you feel like your muscles like get contracted and you need to drop the bells down. But it's like a soft tissues usually.
Have you utilized acupuncture specifically in your recovery?
I've tried acupuncture. I honestly didn't quite get it. Maybe I haven't met like a good, specialist of it, because I know with a sport massage that it's a hard to find a good specialist. Like
Yeah.
being like in Russia, I like was like in this like a sport community, where like all pros like know each other, and we all know. Like where like massage there is like was very few guys in like multiple million people city, like was just a few guys who was like really good, like the working with the neck, and like the specialized on athletes, and like muscle tension relief, like a chiropractor slash massage therapist. And this guy's always busy, so it's hard to find a good one. So maybe, well, I mean, it wasn't a bad experience, but I still like a deep tissue massage better. than acupuncture, and it's kind of like a Eastern European thing. Banya, it's a mandatory, like all like Olympic sports, like boxing, wrestling. They have like a great spas in the sports center, and Saturday that's a banya. It's like it's punished as hard as you skip a workout if you skip a banya. It's like all team going to banya. So it's like the steam room, like it goes up to like 90 degrees Celsius. It's kind of like, well, um, Russian banya, it's kind of humid, very humid. Like Finnish sauna, it's a dry heat and it's usually a bit higher, like it's like goes to like 100 Celsius. And the Russian banya is a bit lower, like about 80, 90, but it's humid and usually uh, guys adding some eucalyptus or like some pine, some oils. So it's like great respiratory um, um, procedure, and plus using this venic. So it's basically a bunch of like leaves on branches. Like of certain like oak usually or branch tree, and you kind of like it's not really a punching, but you kind of like waving it around your joints that
Yeah.
stimulates the air real, and it's like really hot air. So it helps the capillaries to like open and muscles to relax. So it's like after workout, after massage, you're doing body, you kind of get all jelly and soft. And you don't also work out next day. So you do banya on Saturday and then Sunday is rest. And then like you brand new on Monday. You just like perfect,
Have you
sharp
found
and
I've
sound.
seen because I've seen the Russian like recovery where they use the I don't what is that tool called with like it's almost like they're being whipped almost.
Venic, it's called.
Have
So
you
it's
yeah. If you could explain that. And then also have you found one like here? Well, you're in California, but have you found like a
oh yeah, that's in San Francisco. That's Archimedes Banya. It's run by like immigrants from the Eastern Europe. It's a properly done banya. It's legitimate. They have all like usually because it's pretty hot, so your hands and your ears get pretty hot. So you're wearing a wool hat and the gloves, but that's it. That's all clothing you wear. And then this like Venica, and they build their rooms properly. Well, yeah. So it's one here in San Francisco. Um, yeah.
do you utilize a cold plunge?
Um, I I don't have cold plunge at my place. Well, I mean in the gym, but I like better the combination of
Yeah.
well, and that's something I used to do like in Russia. Well, it was like the place where we were working out was like a fitness center, kind of like not as nice as Equinox, maybe a little better than 24 hours fitness, kind of like a middle range, fitness club with like a bunch of machines, but also a good showers and sauna. And so I like to do like you go for like maybe 5 minutes to sauna and then you go to the cold shower and you go back and forth like maybe 5 rounds. And I've heard that this contrast temperatures, like it's like a good exercise for your skin and for your heart and for capillaries, but they kind of they squeeze and they relax, squeeze and
Mm.
relax. And so
That
like
was my
same
favorite.
story with the cold plunge. Like I wouldn't, yeah, I don't have any um desire to go to this like cold plunge if that's all what you got, like to get to this like full of ice. But no, but if the sauna next to it, then yeah, you can you get there, you get cold, and then you jump and you get warm again, and then you go back. And even like well, in Russia, like when it's a winter, so it's usually this banya might be like on the lake, and they cut the hole, in the ice in the lake, and so you kind of you get in banya, and then you jump in the real cold water. You can like rub yourself with the snow. You feel like but thousand knives like goes into your skin, like it's like you're getting all red, and then you jump back. It just feels great. Yeah, that's really awesome. I think it's a lot. It's like it's ultimate recovery. I think it's really great. This contrast of a cold and hot, it's cannot underestimate it. It's for sure a great thing.
That was always my go-to. I mean, the only I would do a lot of cupping, but I don't think the cupping ever did anything. It just looked cool. and I would do that, and then I would get in the sauna and the cold plunge. We had that in
Yeah.
our training room at college. And I would go into the sauna for 20 minutes, and then I would get into the cold plunge for three, go back into the sauna, and call it a day.
Well, and stretching, of course, that's my biggest point I always making, like consistency, key to success. Skip the workout, but then cool down, and it's often the issue. I kind of um, paying attention to it always when I'm on competition and watching, like how guys, warming up and how they're cooling down. And most of the time, guys doing a great job warming up, like pretty much everyone warming up. But then not everyone cooling down, and that's a very big miss. It's a recovery, and there's a investment in your flexibility, and that's also like a mental reset after competition. So for me, it's well, as important phase of a training routine as a kettlebells. I never skip the stretching and I never rush through it. So it's like it takes me as much as kettlebells. Longest kettlebell workout, like if it's 10 minutes competition. So one of the key points of my training methodology is that the total work with bells is about 10 minutes total. Well, and including rest intervals, it may be like maybe 25 minutes. That's all. But the workout, like my workout, is 3 hours. And while I'm warming up about like 20 minutes, plus warm up with bells, it will be 30, and then bells 30 minutes, and then I do GPP, like auxiliary exercises, and then I do my cardio, like up to 30 minutes, and then I do my stretching, also 30 minutes.
Do you
So that's
use?
how. Mhm.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Well, that's why I'm saying to my students. So, well, you need at least 1 hour if you want to get a workout done. It will be like really easy one, 15 minutes warm up, and it's basically no time for GPP. Like it's only like
Yeah.
warm up, cool down, and best. If you want to do GPP, it should be 90 minutes, and like if you have less than an hour, don't even bother to do bells. Just do warm up and cool down. That will be better for you, because if you will like say, oh, I have not enough time, I'll go on bells. Well, that's how you can get hurt because you're not warmed up
Yeah.
properly. So that you're not doing any good to yourself.
Do you?
That's how it was. That's how it was for us. I mean, I would swim 30 seconds, well, less. My races were 19 seconds, and I was in the warm down pool for 35 minutes.
Here we go. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
They would take our blood and they would see our lactic acid.
Yeah, there's no free candy. You need to work for it to get access to this best and really to have like legitimate fun. Not just you know kind of fun, but then hurt yourself. But if you really want to like nail it, yeah, you need to like properly warm up and yeah, and then cool down well as well. Yeah.
Do you use RPR in your warm-ups? I feel like when we were warming up in Denver, we were doing some of the RPR stuff. Have you looked into that? Do you use that in your
What's the
warm-up?
what's the RPR?
It's a reflexive performance reset. It's like where you'll see guys like rubbing their ears and then they'll like rub like it's a
Uh,
very interesting looking warm up. But I
Yeah,
mean,
you see, I'm still catching up on English terminology. You see, it's like you see you have a name for it. But if you mean like probably you mentioned the warm up when we're doing like combinations of like a rubbing
yeah,
and
like
rotations.
rubbing the
Yeah,
joints and whatnot.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for me, the thinking behind it is that well, I want to get as deep as I can into my tissue. So let's say like, well, I'm warming up like not only the joints but also muscles around it, and I feel like the motion is kind of like heating it up from the inside, and the rubbing is heating up from the outside. And I think like when you do them both, so that's how you can get the most of the warm up. Well, and plus you sense yourself like it's also like you rub it, but then by rubbing you might see like, oh, this muscle is sore. Let me let me grab it, let me massage it a little bit. Oh, I feel like the triceps after yesterday, let me like work on it a little bit. So I feel you kind of like mapping your body the best when you kind of like touching, when you go through like at least like a big, skeletal muscles, you can get a better picture because warm up. It can be general warm up when you kind of increasing the heart rate and the body temperature, and you're pumping the blood from the liver into your muscles. But then you want to also do like more specialized warm up where you do like mobility routine and you're checking on the state of your muscles. Is there anything hurts? How's your back? How's your knees? Is it knocking or not? Like, are you sore in certain places? Because it's not about like, to fix it. It's about to be aware.
Yeah, getting
As
in
long as
tune.
you're aware, because then you're armed, right? And you will be acting a certain way during your main sets, because okay, I'm not in my 100% today. Like, I feel like my back kind of like on the edge, so I need to watch it. So let's not push pace too hard, and let's at least like first half of the workout kind of take it easy and see what happens. If like I'll be okay by the middle, then I can push it. Yeah.
When it comes to you were talking about post workout GPP, what does that look like for your training for a kettlebell sport athlete? What are those type of exercises?
um, it's vary, even when I'm looking on my teammates over the years, like it was different approaches to auxiliary exercises. And even like myself, included, like I said, my first coach, he was Olympic weightlifter, so he was writing me basically kind of like a powerlifting GPP, was low reps, like we're doing like under 10 reps, squats and bench press. And I feel strong, and I haven't felt really distracted from kettlebell sport. But then when I moved to a different city, and I met my new coach, the champion coach Sergey, he introduced me to completely different routine, and high reps, light, moderate weight, high reps, like squats, but 100 reps in a row. Like
Mm.
push-ups, 100 reps in a row. Well, I mean, eventually, not every single workout, but you also kind of like building up. Like from, if you want to hit 100 reps, you should be able to get at least 70 now. So like you cannot expect more than like 30% gain from one training cycle, right? So of course, if like you ask, can you teach me to do 100 push-ups? Well, the question is how you can do now. And if you can do 10, well, we cannot get to 100 in 2 months. Like we can gain about like maybe 30%, so we can get to 15. And then once you can, so it's like first. But once you like solid with it and you can do like over 50, well, then we can work on it. And
Which one did you prefer?
I think we need all of it, but in the right time. And I think that at the big kettlebell sport is a weightlifting, still, 32 is a decent weight. So you need
Yeah.
to be strong for it. And it's kind of like naturally happened this way, is that I had like a weightlifting experience, like when at the end of the high school, I joined gymnasium, as any teenager, wants to build some biceps, and like six packs and all, so start lifting weights. Um, I was pretty excited about it, reading like Arnold's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. Was pushing like one rep max. Like my best was like 200 kilograms squats, and 150 bench press, and 200 deadlift. But deadlift wasn't my squats basically was like better than my deadlift. But it was a really helpful experience, when I get to professional division with bells, with 32s. And even like, it gave me confidence to not be afraid of the weight, because it's like compared to like 200-kilogram barbell, like my legs can squat with 200 kilograms. Wow, why I cannot under squat with 232-kilogram kettlebells, so psychological thing. So I think at the beginning of the career, I think for young athlete will be very useful to learn the basics of the weightlifting and do like a proper, a classic kind of powerlifting programming, to gain a certain strengths. So as endurance, also get a proper introduction, to running techniques, because like everyone thinks that, well, some people think that they, what's big deal about running? I just put my shoes and I run. But, it's any sport, right? Where your arms go, where your knees go. So, but then once well, and in the beginning, because you're a beginner, like kettlebell lifter or any other lifter, you cannot do much of a volume of your like primarily exercise. But then once you're progressing and you're getting more advanced, so you're able to handle more and more volume of your like specialization, and then kind of less GPP you need, or at least you don't need maybe that much of improvement in GPP, and you more like need just kind of like a maintenance of it, right? So yeah, and that's what happened basically. That like last time I did a one rep max, it was probably like 2007, like 18 years ago. And then from that point, like I was doing this high reps. Well, and I mean it's still a pretty decent weight. Kind of the goal is like for lower body, for squats, deadlift, that you want to get at least as much weight on the barbell as your competition weights. So like if it's a double 32, so 65 kilogram barbell, and you want to handle like 100 squats under 5 minutes. And that's kind of level of like that's a decent, that's like master of sport performance, basically like a national champion physique, like in kettlebell sport. And like ultimate, well, the next level is when you can handle your body weight on the barbell. So like if I'm 185 pounds person, so if I can handle 100 squats with 185 pounds barbell, that's basically like a world champ level physique. Like if you will not have problems to lift 32s for 10 minutes, doing all this like first dips and second dips and rack fixations with them. So you will check box on it for sure.
So were
But
you
then,
guys studying a lot of biomechanics as well? Were you guys
uh,
like were you guys studying the biomechanics of the movements or
yeah, yeah. Well, that's why, well, it's called, there's a GBP and SPP. And GBP stands for like general physical preparation, and SPP is a specialized physical preparation. And basically, what it means is like GBP is when you just take a ready to go exercise like squats, and you're taking like a classic, most common way to perform this exercise, with a like technique of a power lifter. But then if you, let's say, wants to reach a certain goals, like if you do it for kettlebell sport and you want to do like 100 reps of the squats, well, then you change this technique for the needs of your sport. Like let's say in kettlebell sport, the amplitude around the knee is pretty short. Like our under squat is only 45-degree. Like Olympic weightlifters, they go all the way down. They have no choice. That bar is pushing them there, and that's why they squat so deep. They don't care about their knees health. That's what sports require, so they better get good at it, right? So it's not about like health, it's about like figuring out how to like manage it, because that's what sports require. And in kettlebell sport, it's like a shallow under squats, only 45. So that's why, like, I don't see any reason for me like to squat deeper than like parallel to the ground. It's still like twice as deep as I need for kettlebell sport. So that's why it's somewhat shallow, but it's totally, fulfilling my goals of a sport. And I'm practicing the knee lockouts, which also not the case for low reps, right now. But I want to load my frame and let the muscles rest, at the top fixation. And I even kind of straightening my lumbar as well. I'm hiding all the frame under the barbell when I'm at the top fixation. But I using the same progression from the very lightweight. Like when I start my squats protocol, I'm lifting just an empty barbell, like 45 pounds. And I'm using, well, and it's like I'm doing a 40 reps in 2 minutes, and then 3 sets of 1 minute, and then 60 reps, and then 4 sets of 1 minute, and then 80 reps and 5 sets of 1 minute, and then 100 reps. And then once, if I complete 100 reps under 5 minutes, well, then I'm adding like another, like, um, well, at the beginning, it can be 40 pounds, like 50 pounds maybe, and I do all over again. So by the time I get to like decent weight, my technique is like
and so
quite perfect. Yeah.
and when and I know you said that you kept training logs for every single training session. So were you writing down the way that each thing felt each set, or were you simply writing down the numbers and then analyzing the numbers and seeing what happened, or were you writing down your experience with each set?
I'm not writing the comments of like what I feel about it. If only if something like real happens, like I tore my hand, I can make note of this, or or if I feel some like, or if I have some like a tweak or like a back spasm or like a, shoulder pinch, something, I can make note of this. Because it will explain why next workout, like I dropped the weights, from 32s to 16s, or maybe like did a cleans only. So I kind of like see, okay, like if you will not make it note, it kind of will not make sense, this progression. But if you make a note that like something like happened to you or sick, get sick, you reward this like, but I'm not really like writing the, you know, feelings about my workout. Well, I guess it's just a timing, consuming, like a timing, time issue. But numbers are very informative. As I said, I'm writing exactly the pace, how many repetitions I do every single minute, because like total reps, not as informative, because they can be done, like it can be all kind of pace around it. So it's
So,
yeah.
so would it be safe to say that you don't use RPE in your training plans, which is like some people, are you familiar with RPE, rate of perceived exertion? People will now write programs and like, for example, instead of maybe using a percentage, it'll be a rate of perceived exertion. So they'll be like, I want this set to feel as if it's a 9 out of 10 difficulty. Have you ever used anything like that in your
Uh,
programming?
Yeah. I was rating the workouts. Yeah, how I feel about it, like technique wise and like strength wise and like endurance wise, like stars. Yeah, maybe from 1 to 10. But
Okay.
it wasn't for too long. Well, I mean, uh, I don't know if you wants to see that. I can share my spreadsheet if you wants to take a look on it on my
Yeah,
workouts.
100%.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that would be very interesting.
That'd be pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I think the audience would enjoy that as well. This is going to be a spreadsheet of what, Dennis?
Well, I run my programs and my students' programs in the Google
Oh,
spreadsheet.
okay.
Oh, here we go. Um, and well, you can see it goes to 2011, but the previous 10 years, it's still in my like paper diaries. I still didn't move them to electronic spreadsheets. And well, if we're looking like this current, so it's basically like a weightlifting calendar. So let me scroll to where we now to May. Here we go. So it's May, and the numbers is days of a month. The green rows are weekends. Well, and you can see the well, actually, I need to. It depends on which cycle I am. It's a long cycle or biathlon. So now I'm in biathlon. So that's why the first sort of a table is for jerk, and then the second section of a table is for snatch, and then the last section is for GPP. So, well, let's scroll to where was our Belfast. Eric's. Yeah, that's a Belfast. That's this all-in-one. I did my presentation for my class of it was 1 minute of double half snatch, long cycle, jerk, and snatch. So it's an exercise. Let's say long side, a jerk, 24 kilograms. Well, it means doubles. And then set is a 6 minute set. And that's my goal pace. That's what I ideally wants to perform, 8 and 20. And actually, I went way slower. Here you see 16, 14, 14, 14, 13, 18. And I was blaming it on maybe just being busy on Belfast. It kind of was during the classes. But then at the last day, right, was it you or like basically guys remind, hey, it's like it's a 1,000 feet altitude in the Denver. So maybe that's what got me. So pace was like lower than I was planning it to be, but that was for me. I said okay, so I 200 not happening on coming competitions K2, so I need to like readjust my plan. and probably I should maybe look somewhere like between 16 and 18 reps a minute. And that's what I was practicing next to workout. But I end up with 170 reps, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
And that's, well, considering the preparation. And then snatch routine 24. I'm writing the time I'm lifting, and I'm specifying the arm I'm starting with, because it's like one arm at the time. So for symmetry, I'm starting one workout with left and second with right, and then left and then right. So this way I kind of keep a symmetry between sides. I forget to write here.
Now, what does that mean? The four, like it has a four and a comma. What
Four
does that
minutes.
mean?
Comma stands for minutes.
Ah, okay, okay.
And that's 4 minutes rest in between and 4 minutes right.
Wow.
And with the GPP section over there, could we see that as well?
Yeah. So right now, well, it's not a secret. With Cliff, he like tagged me in this in Dan John this ABC. So it's 2 cleans, 1 press, 3 squats, and he's saying that the legend saying that it was performed 30 rounds of it in 5 minutes. And I said, oh, well, that's quite a kettlebell sport kind of GBP, and let me try to get it done. So I did it with 16 kilograms. I've managed it in 5 minutes exactly, and now I'm kind of getting ready to do it with 20 kilogram kettlebells. So you see, I did on Saturday I did 1 minute intervals, 5 rounds, and 5 sets, and I've managed, first set 6 rounds of it, and then 5 rounds for the rest of the sets. And last workout yesterday, I did 2 minute sets. I was taking 3 minutes rest in between. I did 3 rounds, and I did 4 rounds of in each minute. Well, and then next one I will have 3 minute sets, and then I will go for 5 on Saturday. But it's somewhat like, I'm just pick the the workout that was suggested, okay, and it's a beginning of the training cycle, so I'm just kind of allow myself to just experiment with it. But more traditional GBP would be, usually my classic approach is at least one exercise for lower body, at least one exercise for upper body.
Yeah, that's
And
beautiful. Back squats, dips, boom.
Yeah, so you see a 165, 3 sets of 20, 3 sets of 20 for dips, and running 15 minutes. That's all.
Beautiful.
On weekends, I like to do some like circuit training. So the strength endurance circuit. So it's the rules are, you're using competition weight kettlebell for jump squats. You do 20 reps and then 20 dips, and then for squats, you're ideally using the weight of double kettlebells, which is 145, but I feel like I want to go in a little bit heavier. That was my preparation for this like double half snatch.
So Dennis, what do the days look like that you're not training? Because this is a 3 day a week program here.
I'm here in my room writing programs by my desk. Really,
Yeah.
I'm not doing anything physical. Well, I mean, I'm teaching classes. I'm teaching on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. That's evenings. But when I'm teaching classes, I'm not lifting much. Well, I mean, I might show some technique to guys, but it's a light kettlebells.
Oh,
It's
you're
like
not
I'm not.
stretching or anything?
No. Well, so that's my workout. Let's look on my last workout, like the ones that I so for jerk with double 28s. I did a pyramid 1 2 3 2 1. 2 3 3 2 rest, and then right after that, maybe 10 15 minutes rest, I did snatch 4 minutes per arm with 26, and then another like 10 15 minutes rest. I did this ABC from Dan John. I did 3 sets of 2 minutes, uh, uh, 3 rounds of it, and then I did a 10 minutes run and abdominals and stretching. And it took me about over 2 hours. And Well, I did all of it. I did bells, I did GPP, um, I did cardio. So I'm good. I feel like I really need this 48 hours to recover for next
Yeah,
workout.
I think it's beautiful because you're not there isn't you're not going to accumulate a fatigue of the nervous system
Yeah,
with
I
this
don't like
approach.
everyday workouts.
Right.
It's been a period of I just even if it's a small workout, the fact that I change my clothes, like in my head, it changing the box that I did a workout, and then
Yeah.
I work out every day.
Well,
Yeah, it's kind of like yeah, I feel like I'm mentally kind of. It's not like I'm exhausted. I'm getting less excited. When
yeah.
I have a day rest, I'm excited about the workout. I miss it, and I want to crush it. And I'm really doing my best. But then I want my deserved rest next day.
One thing, Dennis, I was actually shocked that, and you mentioned it at the beginning of the podcast. I was surprised that you decided to commit to competing at the competition because it's so different. But I guess it's like a GPP, But that was an intense competition that we did at in Denver.
Uh, Well, it's like Andrew said, speaking of like some tricks coaches playing on you. Uh, well, if you're ready, you're ready. And well, of course, I've collected some information, because what kind of competitions is this? If it's like one rep max Olympic weightlifting, well, it will be
Right.
just stupid of me to join such thing because it's completely not my field. But I said if it's above 20 reps, it's and you said it's 30. I said okay, 30. That's my number. And then what kind of exercises? And I well on well I never the only exercise I never ever done before was this landmine clean and jerk, but it's a clean and jerk, so it's at least like some sort of like similarities there, and I'm not consistent, but I've done some sandbags before, and well, the next exercise like bells over the head, that's my thing, and then
Yeah.
lunges, it's just hard, it's like not too complicated of a technique, so that's why I'm not just blindly throw myself into it. Like
Right.
you saw I was annoying, maybe I was walking around you, like that. Okay, what's how's
Yeah.
technique this exercise, and can you explain me this, and like what's the rules like? So I've collected a bit of info, but
And I could,
um,
yeah, and I could tell that you really take the training seriously and are educated when it comes to programming. When you came and ran a third of the volume, I said, "Oh, this guy knows what he's doing."
So one quick
yeah. So
question.
so
What
that's
did you
why
think of the
um,
what did you think of the landmine? How was it? How was that? How did that feel?
Yeah, and I was gonna ask a question about that
I
as
bought it to
well.
my gym. I bought it to my gym now. I'm
Let's
showing
go.
it to my student. Well, I mean, we're not pushing it hard, but I think it's very cool, interesting movement. It's like what I've learned. Like when you do a multiple task workout, you don't want to have a similar kind of challenge like exercises. So like if the endurance, you don't want to do all of the exercises on endurance. You ideally kind of wants to like shift a little bit. And this landmine, clean and jerk is a perfect reset. So like after bells, it's kind of feel almost like when it's a light barbell, it's kind of like
Yeah.
stretching. You like this twist, and it's a bit of like a balance challenge. To make these jumps. So like I can see like my guys a bit rusty. They're a bit slow. So I think it will be very cool for them if they learn to like not miss the timing and get it right. So.
Yeah.
Um,
Shout out Landmine University. Shout out David Black. Have you
I
ever
also
uh,
think it helps with the grip because you have to grip it a different way than the bell.
Well, yeah, it's quite different. Yeah, it's attached to the floor, to the rack, so the way it moves, it's slightly different, but it's technical. It's technical. It have static phases. It have technique to it, so that's why for being a cyclical sport athlete, I think it's a great
so
improvement and good challenge.
so the theory behind the landmine is your they'll call it coiling the core or just rotating kind of the side bend that you see with the coil or with the landmine. Do you incorporate any type of rotational movement training into your practice? Because I know the single bell work is would be rotational, but apart from that, do you prioritize that, or since Yeah. Do you prioritize rotational movement? Do you incorporate it
For warm-ups.
for warm-ups?
I like rotations for warm-ups. Well, rotations for joints. That's what we
Right.
did on the warm-up routine, and and so as for pelvis rotations. So it's always my warm-up routine. So I do well, if you will count total, well, like stick rotations for shoulders. Also, that's my warm-up routine, and I'm doing like stick rotations. Sure, that's what improved my shoulder mobility. That fixed my toe fixation, and I was advised to, when I was really kind of was focusing on make progress with it. I was doing 100 rotations per workout, like about 10 sets. Um, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Um, yeah, so good volume of stick rotations, like pelvis rotations, maybe 30 total, and yeah.
What about any loaded mobility? Like is something that we do a lot for swimming is we would do we'd grab the weight and then we'd grab a dumbbell and we would do the external rotations like that with the dumbbell and let the arm come up as far as we could get it and then lower the weight very slowly.
Uh-huh. Um, well, it's kind of for me folding into like a rehab warm up,
Yeah.
rehab slash warm up exercises, and um, I keep forgetting this like abbreviation, this letters. Where is it?
Oh,
YTWL. Yes, YTWL, right? So it's YTWML. Yeah, like with and like you're doing it face down on incline bench.
Yep.
And first, it's like even without dumbbells, it's pretty hard. And then you take a pink 2 pound dumbbells and trying to do it with that. So yeah, that's my shoulder rehab routine. And then I also have a one complex suggested by a friend of mine. He called angel routine, where it's like elastic band, and you like kind of
Yeah.
pulling it to the side one, and then you do like a short range rotations, like 10
well, like
reps each direction, with a short amplitude. Twist and hold, and then you go to horizontal. You do like 10 one direction and another, and then it's like also pull apart the elastic band, and like the reason they call angel routine, because you kind of like lift you're holding this elastic band and you lift it from behind your arms to all the way to the top.
Where
So it's also like,
where are you implementing the landmine
well, if it's a landmine, it's a GPP. It goes to GPP after the bells. Like I'm
afterwards?
giving my guys, sometimes I'm giving uh, my coach, he's never really was programming GPP for me. He kind of was throwing teasers once in a while, like sharing what he's doing, and it's often works. And I wanted to just join him and just try what he's doing, but he never was like demanding that. Dennis, that's
Yeah.
what you should do for GPP. He kind of was his goal. He was saying is that you need to be like physically capable. Like you need to be like
Right.
you need to get stronger in your legs, like work on your cardio, or on your arms. And then I kind of I was asking maybe his advice, but like, I was browsing and kind of came up with well, it's like a tools, you have like a tools to improve certain issues. Like for quads, let's say if I want to improve the bump power, this explosiveness, like I know it's the jump squats. Like usually when I'm in biathlon, so I'm doing jump squats. For a long cycle, I feel like I need to have more power, and I like squats for this. Like for upper body, like I like push-ups or well. When it's a biathlon, I like push-ups because it's lighter, so I can go faster and do more reps. For long cycle, I like dips because it's a bit heavier. I feel stronger doing them. And yeah, so some students, they again, as long as you know the goal and as long as you know the tool, it's like many ways, to improve the explosiveness of your quads. Like I'm sure have some your own favorite exercise. Like can be sled, like can be box jumps. So you can be creative about it. So that's why I think it's not really right to like mandate something. But if my students are asking, then I'm sharing like what I do, and then on weekends we usually do some like circuit trainings, and that's where I have a battle rope and sled and like landmine, so I can do like a circuit. Also came up like yeah.
Dennis, what did you think of the people doing the ropes? Doing like the
Uh,
jump rope without jumping, like the rope flow?
rope flow. I actually chat with also guys from the Belfast, and um, I never tried it before, and well, as I understand, the rope flows that it's kind of like a coordination and balance, exercise. Well, I think it's good. It's just that the thing is that how many exercises can you master, right? Because
Yeah.
like honestly, like myself, I'm quite a like how say if you can call that like a conservative person. I like to like I better do fewer things but better. And still, like I'm experimenting a little bit, just a little bit, maybe learn, but I'm not really like into, you know, uh, um, uh, I'm trying to not compromise, my
Right.
my 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 goals and my routine. So that's why, I'm kind of selective and well, when I have time, I'm trying to explore things, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, I like, I think the mobility is it's crucial importance. That's our health basically. That's a safety boost, and I think you know like if I would have more time, or was more organized person, like I probably would like to join some maybe even yoga classes, just really kind of just master, like because I'm improvising, but like get like
Yeah.
a real like science of like a proper stretching. I actually really enjoyed, but I wasn't also able to like join it fully, but just a flow, not a rope flow, but animal flow, and
Yeah.
on the Belfast. I think it's awesome. That's very cool. All this exercise, there's the scorpion and like the seated beast, and like great mobility exercise. It feels so great. So so I don't have my opinion yet about the rope flow because I never done it, but I will try to find time for it and give it a shot because it's definitely doesn't look exhausting. I don't consider myself as very like superior balance kind of guy. Well, what I mean, like I and maybe that's the issue, but like when I was a kid, like I was riding a bicycle, not a skateboard, and I kind of like I'm not really like good at it,
Yeah.
and I kind of like and maybe I one day finally like put myself together. I did a couple like surfing classes, and like surf few times, but I'm not great at it. I'm it like I was able to get up on the board like on the big one, this foam one,
Yeah.
but once, well, and maybe was a one surf when I maybe like was able to get up on this like foam board maybe like three times, and I said, okay, I'm ready for the small one, and I took the small one. It was like a seminar in Brazil, and guys took me on the beach. And it was like it was a rough weather, and I took such a beating. That was like I know I wasn't able to get up on it even once, and it was tough. So I mean, yeah, I'm more like kind of like more simple, one plane kind of kettlebell sport, clean and jerk
Yeah.
thing. Well,
Listen,
did
I
some
mean,
some
when you're an elite level athlete, adding in various aspects of fitness is, like you said, it's not necessarily supporting the goal. So, but yeah, just it's interesting, man. It's interesting. I think it's really cool that you like the landmine.
yeah, yeah. Well, I saw the landmine before, and it's you can do just simple like barbell rolls with it.
Right.
I don't know
Right.
if it will consider that as a I'll say assault to clean and jerk, but I mean it's like super simple exercise, and you can also do just a press with it, right? So
Right.
it's a known tool, but
Right.
the clean and jerk, and even the way you do it, like also with like a like double jump, like you made it looks like super cool, and you just kind of improvising and make it like very advanced, like coordination and balance wise.
Yeah,
So I
they've made a system, like a certain system with certain exercises that they have incorporated into the landmine system. But of course, you could, there's all the various. Everybody's seen the various exercises that you can do off the rows or off the landmine, whether it's rows, regular presses. But yeah, like all the footwork and the jumpy stuff. That's just just another way of doing it.
I'm really enjoying the methodologies,
Yeah.
and like I'm just curious how things work. So again, I wish I just have more time and more energy. And if I would, I probably would, really try to like explore more because, well, I'm luckily, being in the like fitness community and sport community, having, friends like you guys that you introduced me to landmine, show at least like a quick peek, of it, and it was awesome. And I also had like a brief introduction to battle rope, which also like the whole, like you can do the whole like training routine based of it, like with Aaron Gayet, I did this like certification. Well, he just invited me um, to join. Like they have like all kind of ropes, like I think the thickest was like maybe like 4 inches or 5 inches thick and thin ones, and then you can do the different kind of like
Hmm.
moves with that, synchronized and unsynchronized, and like different kind of waves, and it's a serious whole body workout. It's not arms at all, it's still legs. You swing it up and you squat, like your legs is on fire, your lungs is on fire. It's like outstanding exercise. And they also have some certain programming the way you perform this battle rope. So I mean, it's just pretty cool as well. So
Yeah, I could see that even translating to kettlebell sport, right? Because it's like that range, quarter range squat.
yeah, relaxation, swing,
Exactly.
and pull, like an elbow should pointing down towards the torso.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's
you know.
interesting.
And the
That's a
grip
good.
also is challenge. If it's a thick
Right.
rope, and if it's a long rope, like your grip getting smoked.
Yeah.
Um,
Andrew, were you about to say something?
No, I was saying that's actually a really good way to train it because I was thinking about the up phase right here where you're coming up to rack, so you're getting that right there, and you're tightening the lats, you're getting everything nice. Yeah, yeah, that's cool.
Dennis, have you ever done rock climbing? This is something that I've started doing recently.
no, well, I mean, as a kid, I was climbing some trees and maybe some tiny rocks, but no, I never really kind of, was doing it like seriously with a gear and, some like programming and ropes, like never learned like a proper rock
Yeah.
climbing. No,
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. There's so
it's
many
cool.
interesting sports. What are some sports that when you look at the sports, you're like, wow, that is very impressive. For me, I always say the two sports that apart from my sport, which is martial arts fighting. So apart from that, when I look at sports, I always say rock climbing and Olympic weightlifting. I think that those are some of the most impressive athletes that I've seen. Like with what they have to do is just incredible. What about you?
Um, well, Olympic lifting, yes, like when it comes to sports, like watching sports, well, when it's a great game, when it's like a World Cup final, I can watch
Yeah.
soccer maybe, but it's been a while. But I'm more like kind of individual sports. So like I would enjoy to watch the Olympic weightlifting, that's for sure. And I like boxing. I think
Yeah.
it's like martial arts are also kind of like evolutionized, over the time. It kind of like mixed different styles, but boxing it's kind of like such a like a golden, standard, like such a
Yeah.
classic,
Yeah.
art. And yeah, it just, yeah, quite a fascinating to watch. Well, especially, like particular boxers. Like I'm a big fan of Tyson in his best years. It's like when I was some motivation, like I'm watching his training routine and like his knockouts. Like um yeah, his approach, like, and thanks to like this YouTube and internet, like I was really enjoying watching, listening his podcast, and even there's like it's very few, but for Cas D'Amato, like speaking of like a psychological aspect, it's it's very cool. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's like that Teddy Atlas. He's talking about Tyson that he's never really like that he's a coward boxer and he's never really met a real opponent. And when he met them, he lost, like pointing on the Holyfield, like or Lennox fights. But uh, the thing is that, well, and Tyson talking about that himself, that he's always was scared about before each fight.
Yeah.
And so as myself, we're all scared. But the thing, and then like Cass talking about it as well, that it's important to not be afraid. So what you do about it, you're scared and you get panicky, you run away, or it's your motivation to
Mm.
work real hard because it's so scary. And I think that's what Tyson did, because I think he was so scared that he was working so hard that he gets so much better than everyone else. So that's why it kind of looks like maybe not a fair fight, but no, no, no. The guys wasn't weak. He just was like so way above them. That's why he was winning by 1 minute. He was just over prepared. He was like such a hard worker, because maybe who knows what his was real motivation, and his maybe real motivation was fear, but it works. And I kind of like can relate it to myself, because uh, you know, if guys winning with like mid 80 reps, let's all be get ready for 90. So I'll not worry about them at all. And that's what happened. My goal was 100 reps. Doesn't matter that no one ever done it. I just wants to do it, so I will not need to worry about like anyone around. It's like way less stressful this way. And so, it's like being more specific like about Mike, it's kind of saying like early starters and late starters, right? It's just like if Lennox fought Mike in his 20s, like when the same age, but Lennox was not there yet, when Mike was crushing. And then like in reverse, like Mike, he had all his fame behind him, so he's pretty much was like retired. And Lennox, he opposite, he kind of like really like dial everything in like his late like 30s, and that's why it's ended up this way. But it's yeah, it's very interesting. I really enjoy it. Boxing.
Yeah. For me, my favorite sport to watch, the only sport I really watch is swimming. The only one, it's film study. I was studying, always studying the best, studying what they were doing. I like football, American football.
Mhm.
And I
Who are you most impressed by?
in
Apart
what
apart from swimmers, which athletes are you most impressed by? Apart from, yeah, we'll just say apart from swimming. I was gonna list all three of our sport, but yeah, who are you most impressed by, or who are you like, wow?
most impressed by track athletes.
Mm.
Track athletes are the most impressive to me.
Which event?
The 100 meter,
Yeah.
the 100
Is
and
it
the 200. The 400 I
sprinters?
really like because in swimming as well, the 100 meter guy, in swimming, if you're the 100 meter guy, it's usually the battle between the 200 meter guy and the 50 meter guy. In the 400, I like that there's some of the guys that could do the 200 and then they go to the 400, so you see the different strategies. I love watching the different strategies. I love seeing how there's some people that go out really really fast, but then there's some people that are very steady until the last 100 meters. And then I just love watching the form. I love watching the form of the running. I love watching the
Mhm.
way their foot hits and it explodes. Because they're not even like grabbing the floor. They're touching and boom, boom, boom. I love watching that. I love watching that. It's to me it's an art.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Track 100, 200. It's so impressive. They spend more time in the air than on the ground, which is like a crazy thing to think about.
Yeah.
Significantly less time on the ground versus in the air.
Wow.
Yeah, I like watching the high jump too. I like watching the high jump.
Uh-huh.
The high jump and the one that I'm interested in is the javelin throw.
Their training Dennis, I'm sure you've seen some of the javelin throwers trainings. It's phenomenal to watch. It's beautiful when you see the way that they train. I've seen guys like doing drills on like med balls or it's like Swiss balls where they'll reach all the way back and then launch something off of the Swiss ball. Or I've seen machines like a full mechanical unit like it's on an angle of the throw and they'll be throwing the unit. Um,
Wow.
yeah, the shoulder mobility and the rotation is incredible.
Well, not only that, it's the stopping ability. It's the braking ability
Yeah,
because
because
they
you
have
yeah,
to sprint all the way and then they stop.
right.
And so it's their body's ability to handle all that force to stop and then throw it.
Yeah,
I'm
crazy.
wondering, javelin athletes, can they throw a ball like in the baseball? Will they be a good baseball players?
100%. I think a lot of the
They can.
javelin
I
players
think you can
start.
throw it pretty hard, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of them started as baseball players or
Yeah.
started as football players, and then their coaches got them into track, and then I think a lot of the progression is baseball, baseball and football, and then they go into track to train in the off season, and they find out they're better at track.
Yeah. Yep. Or vice versa. You got the track guy that goes to football and then he gets into the strength and conditioning program and it ruins him. Because he was running good hundreds and then he started hitting a bunch of exercises he didn't need to be doing.
That's true.
You've heard of that story as well.
Too many times.
Well, shoot, man, Dennis, this has been a pleasure. I think we've went over the 2 hour mark here, so we want to respect your time. I feel like we could sit here and talk for two
Yeah,
more
right.
hours.
Wow, it's been a great conversation. You're
Well,
honestly,
I'll be happy to do it again if you guys will have any interest. It's yeah, it's been a pleasure too.
hey,
Yeah.
100%. We would love to have you again. This has been a great conversation.
Yeah,
Great.
maybe we do it again. We put on we I don't know, talk about something specific or whatnot. We'll see what the audience would like to see and gear our thoughts around that.
Yeah, awesome.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, let's just any closing thoughts, anything you want to leave the audience with? Where can we find you on the internet or in person?
Well, my all social media is all kettlebell sport. Really, I'm sharing my journey, and actually, um, I was very pleased when I started to receive feedback finally because when I started the channel, well, my goal was like I was lacking information on my beginnings, was nothing, and I thought, like, well, I made it, so let's I will just I call it the alphabet, like let's I will just share it with guys, and like I have like basic technique explanations, and I'm just sharing my workouts, so like guys who's paying attention, you can track me like what I'm up to, through all training cycles. I felt like I look on my channel, it looks like kind of like a journey, and like at first kind of like it seems like no one was really like care and watch, and I said, well, it's still what I do. But then in a few years, like on competitions, like one person came to me and said, hey, there's like I just did this result watching your YouTube videos. And so really, like that's pretty cool. And so yeah, it's my first and last name, Denis Vasilev, kettlebell. It's on YouTube, on Instagram. So if anyone interested about kettlebell sports, so check it out.
Absolutely, man. You definitely made a name in the online world. I mean, I know when I started using kettlebells to supplement my martial arts training and you were one of the first people I found that was also a kettlebell someone who was using kettlebells on the internet. And this is years ago, man. So yeah, your name is known, and it's definitely good information, good content, good quality stuff out there. So definitely follow him on Instagram, YouTube. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I could tell you the same thing. I remember the first time I saw one of your videos, it was in COVID. So when I first started using the kettlebells, I didn't have Instagram at the time, but I had YouTube. and I was learning how to do the snatch. You were teaching how to do the snatch, and I was watching that.
Oh, great. Yeah. Well, yeah, did my best. Sure. And well, that's my goal really. Now I really honestly enjoy the sport. I uh, from all of the angles and the challenge and what it do to my body and what it do to my mind. I definitely think it's well, as long as you have interest to kettlebell. Of course, it's not only the weight. There's so many things we can be up to. But if that's the tool you sympathize to, I think it's a great one, and I'm very happy that I have opportunity to share it with you guys. And yeah, I don't think I will ever get tired. So count me in always if you want to talk about bells.
Yeah,
That's
you don't get tired. You do 100 reps for no problem, you know? You don't
Yeah,
get
I
tired.
thought it was so crazy in the and going back to the competition, like you executed the competition, it would seem with ease. Like I know of course it was a challenge, but everything was so like perfect. It was synchronized. It was a smooth flow. It was steady. It was one rep, set it down, next rep. And it was not like it didn't seem to be a big struggle for you. It was very consistent. So guy's a
Thank
machine.
thank you.
Absolute machine.
All
All right.
right,
If you're thank you guys for watching another episode of the Power Talks podcast. Dennis, we thank you so much again for coming on. And yeah, let's wrap it there. Peace out.
great pleasure, guys. All the best.
Wow.
Let's go.
Thank